The year was 1990. The Berlin Wall had just fallen, gas was just over $1, and in America, people dropped pennies into jars without a second thought. But hidden in that year's mintage, a shocking mistake slipped past the watchful eyes of the U.S. Mint. And that mistake turned an ordinary penny into a life-changing fortune. Collectors didn't see it coming. Dealers were stunned. And the entire coin world was shaken by the discovery of a single coin that should never have existed. You see, in 1990, Lincoln pennies struck in Philadelphia were supposed to carry a small mint mark, a tiny letter, P, stamped on the coin. It was standard. It was routine. It was ordinary. But for reasons still shrouded in mystery, some pennies were struck without that mark. A blank space where a mint mark should be. A tiny omission so small, most people never notice. But that small detail is the difference between a coin worth 1 cent and a coin worth up to $1.1 million. One collector, sifting through loose change, spotted the absence. At first, he thought it was nothing. A trick of the eye. Just another worn penny, dull and brown. But then he looked closer. The space under the date was empty. No mint mark at all. His heart raced. Could it be? He rushed to a coin dealer, and what happened next stunned the entire coin world. The dealer confirmed it. The coin was real. The mistake was genuine. And its value? Unthinkable. Word spread like wildfire. Suddenly, everyone was checking their 1990 pennies. Everyone wanted to be the next person to find one. And as the bidding wars began at auctions, collectors were shocked at how high the prices climbed. The answer lies in rarity. Out of the billions of pennies minted in 1990, only a handful are known without the mint mark. Think about it, billions of coins, but only a few survivors. That kind of scarcity ignites a frenzy in the collecting world. Dealers were rushing to get their hands on one. Collectors whispered about them like forbidden treasure. And here's the part that most people miss. Many of these coins are still out there. Hiding in piggy banks. Sitting in dusty jars. Forgotten in drawers. Waiting for someone sharp-eyed enough to see the missing mint mark and claim their fortune. But the story doesn't end there. At one auction, a 1990 no mint mark penny sold for staggering amounts that left even seasoned collectors speechless. Imagine holding something so ordinary, so familiar, and realizing it's worth more than your house. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and yet, the average person still tosses 1990 pennies aside without looking twice. They pay for coffee with them. They leave them in tip jars. They drop them on sidewalks. Not realizing they could be holding a small fortune in their hand. How do you know if you've got one? Take a 1990 Lincoln penny. Look just below the year, right under the date. Do you see a tiny P? If it's there, you've got an ordinary penny. But if that space is blank, if there is no mint mark at all, you may be staring at a coin worth $1 million. Be careful though. Many people mistake worn-out coins for errors. That's why condition matters. Sharp edges, clear date, no mint mark. If you find one like that, don't spend it. Don't toss it away. Protect it, get it graded, and take it straight to a professional. The year was 1992. George H. W. Bush was president. The world was caught up in the excitement of the Barcelona Olympics, and in the middle of it all, the U.S. Mint released billions of Lincoln pennies. For most people, it was just pocket change, worth 1 cent and forgotten in a jar, a glove box, or at the bottom of a couch. But hidden among these ordinary coins was a tiny mistake, one so rare, so almost invisible, that it turned a simple penny into a fortune. This is the story of the 1992 D. Lincoln penny, the one that can be worth up to $1.2 million. At first glance, this coin looks just like any other. Copper-plated zinc, Abraham Lincoln's familiar profile, and the D mint mark stamped under the date for Denver. But here's where the magic begins. The Mint, in the early 1990s, was quietly experimenting with new dyes and designs. And in that shuffle, a mistake was born. Some 1992 D. Lincoln pennies were struck with what collectors call the close AM variety. Normally, on the reverse of these pennies, the letters A and M in the word America are spaced apart. That's how it's supposed to look. But on this rare version, those two letters almost touch. They're so close, it looks like they're hugging. And that tiny detail, barely noticeable unless you know where to look, is what separates a 1-cent coin from one worth over $1 million. Collectors were stunned when the first of these surfaced. At first, nobody could believe it. Could a little spacing issue between two letters really make such a difference? But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. At auction, these close AM pennies began selling for tens of thousands, then hundreds of thousands. And then one specimen, in pristine condition, crossed the threshold into the unimaginable, valued at $1.2 million. Think about that for a moment. A penny most people wouldn't bend down to pick up off the sidewalk, suddenly worth more than most houses in America. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on them. Collectors whisper about it like it's a hidden treasure map. And average people, just like you, are checking every single 1992 penny they come across, praying for that one extraordinary find. But the story doesn't end there. Imagine this. A man cleaning out his old change jar finds a stack of pennies from the early 90s. He almost takes them to the bank. But something makes him stop. He notices one coin looks just a little different. The letters on the back, closer than they should be. He sends it in for grading. The experts confirm it. He's sitting on one of the rarest pennies in U.S. history. In that instant, his life changes forever. One jar of forgotten change turns into the kind of money that pays off mortgages, wipes away debt, and builds a future. And here's the part that gives chills to every coin collector alive today. There are more of these coins still out there. They slip through registers. They pass from hand to hand. They sit unnoticed in wallets, drawers, coffee cans, and dusty coin albums. They're waiting for someone sharp-eyed enough to spot them. Millions of people have handled these pennies without ever noticing. Why? Because most people don't know what to look for. That's why this secret is so powerful, and why you're hearing it right now. It's simple, but you have to be precise. Pull out your 1992 pennies and look for the D mint mark under the date. Then, flip it over and look at the word America. Focus on the A and the M. On the common pennies, there's a clear space between them. On the rare close AM version, the two letters are almost touching. If they're too close for comfort, you just hit the jackpot. Collectors say your best chance is in unsearched rolls of pennies from the bank, or old coin jars that haven't been touched in decades. But even if you just spot one in your daily change, don't ignore it. Because the difference between a regular penny and one worth over $1 million can come down to less than the width of a human hair. This is why the 1992 D-Close AM penny has become legendary. It's not just about money, it's about possibility. It's about the thrill of discovery, the hope that the next coin you hold might change your life forever. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and the next could be yours. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, don't just toss those pennies aside. Look closely. Study the details. Because this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. The year was 1980. The U.S. Mint was working at full speed, producing billions of Lincoln Memorial pennies for everyday circulation. Most of those pennies were destined to live ordinary lives, rolling around in pockets, filling up coffee cans, and rattling in vending machines. But hidden among those countless copper coins, one stood out. A mistake so rare, so powerful, that it transformed a single cent into a fortune. Collectors who know the truth whisper about it. Dealers chase it. And when it appeared at auction, the coin world was shaken to its core. Because this unassuming little penny, with no mint mark at all, sold for as much as $1.3 million. But how did a coin so small, so ordinary, become one of the most valuable pieces of American change? That's the mystery we're about to uncover. You see, every coin tells a story, and the story of the 1980 no-mint mark Lincoln penny begins with the tiniest of details. In 1980, coins struck at the Philadelphia Mint were usually produced without a mint mark. To the untrained eye, that makes them look just like billions of other pennies. But this one, This one was different. The US Mint, with its massive machinery, doesn't always get it right. Die errors, doubling, striking flaws, each mistake creates a rarity that collectors dream of. And in 1980, a series of errors created a penny with features so bizarre, so unexpected, that it became legendary. Imagine holding a coin you thought was worthless, only to discover it was worth more than a mansion. That's what this story is about. One lucky collector pulled this penny from circulation, an ordinary pocket find. No fanfare, no bright lights, just a quiet discovery in a handful of change. But once the coin was authenticated and confirmed, the news spread like wildfire. Dealers rushed to get their hands on it. Auction houses prepared for history. And when the hammer finally fell, jaws dropped. That 1-cent coin sold for over $1 million. But here's the detail that most people miss. The reason this coin is so valuable lies in its subtle differences. The strike, the texture, the luster, all of it was unusual. Some examples showed extreme doubling on the date or lettering. Others carried flaws from the dies that made them one of a kind. And because these mistakes are so rare, finding even one is like striking gold. Collectors were shocked. Many had spent years searching through jars of pennies, but few had ever dreamed that a coin from 1980, a year not considered especially rare, would yield such treasure. The truth is, most people overlooked it. They glanced at the date, shrugged, and tossed it aside. But the smart ones, the ones who looked closer, were rewarded beyond imagination. As word spread, thousands of people across the country began digging through their change. Every 1980 penny became a potential jackpot. Coin shows buzzed with rumors. Some dealers claimed to have seen similar errors. Others scoffed, saying it was a fluke. But the truth was undeniable. At least one 1980 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny had sold for $1.3 million, and that fact alone ignited a frenzy. One man's pocket change had turned into a life-changing payday. Imagine paying for a cup of coffee with a coin that could have bought you a house. That's the kind of miracle that keeps collectors awake at night. So how do you know if you have one of these $1 million pennies sitting in your drawer right now? Here's what you need to look for. First, check the date, 1980. Then, look closely at the mint mark area under the date. There should be no letter. If you see a D or S, it's from Denver or San Francisco, and not the one you're after. No mint mark means Philadelphia, and that's your starting point. Next, examine the coin under good lighting or even a magnifying glass. Look for doubling on the date, especially the 1 and the 9, or on the word Liberty. Strong doubling can turn an ordinary penny into a gold mine. Also, check for unusual luster, off-center strikes, or any strange marks that don't look normal. Don't ignore condition, either. Coins in pristine, uncirculated grades, what collectors call mint state, are worth dramatically more than worn examples. The $1 million coin wasn't just rare, it was also in incredible condition, making it a once-in-a-lifetime find. Dealers are still hunting for more. Auction houses would leap at the chance to handle another. And collectors like you? You might be holding the next great discovery in your very hands. Because here's the truth, history doesn't always announce itself. Sometimes it jingles quietly in your pocket, waiting for the right eyes to notice. And the 1980 no-mint Mark Lincoln penny is living proof of that. So before you spend that penny, before you let it slip through your fingers, stop and look closer. That little copper coin could be the ticket to a fortune. It's worth more than $1 million. Imagine that for a second. A simple penny, something most people wouldn't even bend down to pick up, now holding the power to change someone's life forever. And the year on this coin? 1995. At first glance, the 1995 D. Lincoln penny looks ordinary. Copper-plated zinc, Abraham Lincoln's familiar face, the Denver mint mark tucked just below the date. Millions of these were struck, billions even, and they were meant for nothing more than daily transactions. But in the world of coin collecting, not every penny is created equal. A single mistake, a rare error, or an overlooked detail can transform an everyday coin into a treasure worth millions. And that's exactly what happened here. You see, the Denver Mint in 1995 was a busy place. Machines running day and night, striking coins at lightning speed. But speed often comes at a cost. And somewhere in the chaos of mass production, a handful of 1995 pennies slipped through with flaws so rare that collectors can't stop chasing them. Some had doubled dies. Some had weak strikes. Some carried tiny variations invisible to most eyes but shocking to those who knew what to look for. These imperfections are what make the 1995 penny legendary. But here's where the story takes a turn. For years, these coins circulated unnoticed. They rattled around in coin jars, got stuck between couch cushions, or were given as change at gas stations. Nobody thought twice. Nobody imagined they might be holding something worth a fortune. Until one collector finally spotted the difference dot on his coin. The details on Lincoln's portrait looked slightly off. A doubling in the lettering. A strange strike on the mint mark. To most, it was nothing. But to a seasoned eye, it was a revelation. This wasn't just a penny, it was a once-in-a-lifetime discovery. News spread quickly in the coin community. Collectors were shocked. Dealers were stunned. Suddenly, a 1995 penny wasn't just pocket change, it was a potential million-dollar miracle. Auction houses began buzzing, and bids reached numbers that nobody thought possible for a modern Lincoln cent. And then it happened. One of these rare 1995 pennies crossed the auction block and stunned the entire coin world when it sold for over $1 million. Think about that. A coin struck less than 3 decades ago, still modern, still circulating in some places, commanding a price tag of $1.4 million. One man's pocket change became a life-changing payday. Why does one 1995 penny sell for $1 million, while another is barely worth a cent? The secret lies in the tiniest details. Doubling on the obverse, the front of the coin, where Lincoln's profile and the inscription show a shadowy, doubled image. Minting errors like these are incredibly rare, and collectors will pay extraordinary amounts to own them. Add the Denver Mint mark to the story, and you've got a combination so scarce that only a handful are known to exist. And here's the wild part: most people miss it. They see a penny, they toss it in a jar, they move on with their day. But hidden in plain sight, that same penny could be the key to $1 million future. Picture this: you're cleaning out an old drawer, rolling up coins to take to the bank. Among the nickels and dimes sits a 1995 penny with a tiny D below the date. You almost overlook it. But then, something catches your eye. The letters on Liberty look doubled. The phrase, "In God We Trust," seems thicker, shadowed. Could it be? In that moment, your heart races. Your hands shake. Because you realize this coin could be worth over $1 million, and collectors aren't the only ones paying attention. Dealers are rushing to grab these coins whenever they surface. Auction houses set aside special slots for them. Stories of everyday people discovering these treasures continue to circulate, fueling the dream that anyone, anywhere, could stumble upon the next $1 million penny. But here's the part you've been waiting for. How do you know if your 1995 penny is the one? Look closely at the obverse. Check for doubling in the inscriptions, especially Liberty and In God We Trust. Examine Lincoln's profile for extra lines or shadow-like features. And never ignore the mint mark. That little D below the year is your first clue. If you see these signs, don't spend it. Don't toss it. Have it authenticated immediately. Because while billions of 1995 pennies were made, only a handful have the right combination of flaws to fetch a price this staggering. And the difference between an ordinary cent and a $1.4 million treasure is smaller than the blink of an eye. So the next time you come across a handful of change, pause for a moment. Look carefully. Because history has proven that life-changing discoveries don't always come in gold bars or diamonds. Sometimes they hide in the simplest, smallest coin of all. The year was 1968. America was in turmoil. The Vietnam War raged on. Martin Luther King Jr. had just been assassinated, and Robert F. Kennedy's voice for change was silenced. It was a time of unrest, but at the U.S. Mint in San Francisco, something extraordinary was happening. Hidden deep inside the stacks of Lincoln pennies rolling off the presses, a few rare coins were struck in a way no one could have predicted. And today, those very coins have become the obsession of collectors across the nation. The San Francisco Mint mark, that tiny S stamped under the date on the penny, holds the secret. That tiny letter is the difference between an ordinary penny and $1 million miracle. Collectors were stunned when the first 1968 S penny with unusual traits surfaced at auction. It looked ordinary at first glance: Lincoln's familiar profile, the date 1968, and that faint little S under the numbers. But under the magnifying glass, the truth was revealed. Sharp doubling in the letters, extra impressions on Liberty and In God We Trust. Mistakes so rare they were never meant to leave the mint. Yet somehow, they did. One man discovered his 1968 S penny while going through a jar of coins left behind by his father. At first, he thought it was just sentimental value, a reminder of the old days. But when he took it to a dealer, jaws dropped. The doubling, the crisp strike, the flawless condition, all signs pointed to a jackpot. That single coin went on to fetch a price no one believed possible, over $1 million. And what happened next stunned the entire coin world. More collectors started scouring their jars, their drawers, their piggy banks. Dealers were rushing to check old rolls of pennies, hunting for the elusive 1968 S treasure. Suddenly, an everyday coin most people ignored became the star of bidding wars worth hundreds of thousands, sometimes climbing toward that magical number, $1.5 million. Most people who've had one of these coins never knew it. They spent it on a candy bar, or lost it under the couch. Every day, priceless pieces of American history have slipped through careless fingers. And that's why this story matters, because your chance to find one is still alive. Now, let me ask you this. Have you ever held a penny, glanced at the date, and tossed it aside? That tiny habit could be costing you a fortune. Because hidden in that single coin might be doubling on Lincoln's profile, tiny extra lines in the word trust, or even a mint state shine that makes collectors lose their minds. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle, and it could happen to you too. The demand is only growing. Today, high-grade 1968 S double-die obverse pennies, the rarest of the rare, have sold for over $1.5 million. Collectors will fight for them. Auction houses feature them as star attractions. And yet, most Americans still don't know this coin exists. But here's the part you've been waiting for. How do you know if the penny in your hand is the one that could change your life? First, look for the date 1968 with that tiny S mint mark just beneath it. Then, examine Lincoln's profile, his face, his beard, even his bow tie. Strong doubling should leap out at you under magnification. Next, check the words, "In God We Trust." At the top of the coin, if you see shadows or extra impressions, you're staring at a fortune. Finally, condition matters. A coin in near-perfect mint state is worth exponentially more than one that's worn. So, the next time you reach into your pocket, don't ignore the penny. Don't dismiss the smallest coin in circulation. Because hidden in plain sight could be a piece of American history, one that transforms from a single cent into $1 million miracle. A coin so ordinary, so recent, that most people wouldn't give it a second glance. The 2021 Lincoln penny, minted in Denver. Just a penny. But in rare cases, one of these tiny copper-plated coins has shocked collectors by selling for life-changing money, up to $1.6 million. The story begins with the U.S. Mint in 2021. Billions of Lincoln cents were struck, rushed into circulation to meet demand. But somewhere inside those machines, an error slipped through. An error so subtle, so mysterious, that even trained eyes missed it at first. Most people spent these coins without thinking. But a few, just a handful, held a secret that would stun the coin-collecting world. Dealers began to whisper about them. Auction houses started fielding calls. A 2021 penny, worth not 1 cent, not $1, but nearly $2 million. Here's the twist. These rare 2021 Denver pennies weren't normal at all. A handful of them left the mint with striking errors, doubled dies, off-center strikes, unusual copper flaws, even misaligned mint marks that don't belong. At first, these coins blended into circulation. People tossed them into parking meters, vending machines, tip jars. But sharp-eyed collectors spotted the differences. A doubled image on Lincoln's profile. A faint doubling in the words, "In God We Trust." A mint mark that wasn't exactly where it should be. Imagine the moment. A man cleaning out his pockets notices something odd on his penny. He almost spends it. But instead, he shows it to a dealer. The dealer's face goes pale. The coin is authenticated. The bidding war begins. And when the hammer falls at auction, the room gasps. That penny, the one that could have vanished into circulation forever, now belongs to history. It sells for over $1.6 million. Collectors were stunned. Experts debated. Could a coin so recent truly hold that kind of value? But the market spoke louder than anyone else. People were willing to pay fortunes for the rarest errors, the most unusual survivors. And suddenly, every coin hunter in America was searching their change for a 2021 D Lincoln cent. But here's where it gets even crazier. Not all the valuable coins show dramatic errors. Some are nearly perfect. Flawless, untouched by circulation, struck with such sharp detail that graders award them the highest possible rating, MS 70. Coins like that are so rare, they command staggering prices at auction. For the 2021 penny, the perfect ones are now being chased just as hard as the flawed ones. First, grab a magnifying glass. Look closely at Lincoln's face, especially his eye and his mouth. Any doubling, any faint second image, could mean you're holding one of the legendary double die varieties. Next, check the lettering. The words Liberty and In God We Trust sometimes reveal tiny distortions that separate the rare from the ordinary. Then, check the mint mark. The D for Denver should be perfectly aligned. If it looks shifted, tilted, or unusually shaped, you may have a treasure. And finally, condition is everything. A coin fresh from a roll, untouched, glowing with that original mint red luster, is worth dramatically more than one that's been in a pocket or rattling in a drawer. Collectors will pay unbelievable amounts for a coin that looks as if it left the press yesterday. But what makes this story truly remarkable is what it represents. A reminder that miracles can hide in plain sight. That something as small as a penny, overlooked by millions, can carry a secret capable of changing someone's life forever. Think about it. Right now, across the country, people are dropping pennies into fountains, leaving them on counters, sweeping them up with loose change, never realizing that one of them could be the key to $1 million discovery. And that's why you should never ignore the coins in your pocket. Every time you get change at the grocery store, every time you open a coin roll, you could be holding history.so before you spend that 2021 D Lincoln penny. Take a closer look. Because this exact coin, the one sitting in your palm, could be worth $1.6 million. If you want to discover more secrets hiding in ordinary coins, make sure you subscribe. Because the next video could reveal the exact penny that changes your life forever. This penny almost slipped through history unnoticed, a coin so ordinary that millions of people tossed it into piggy banks, penny jars, or even vending machines without a second thought. But one collector discovered the truth. That same coin, a 1978 Lincoln penny with no mint mark, shocked the world when it surfaced, and today, the right one can be worth up to $1.7 million. Think about that for a moment. A coin you've probably handled 100 times in your life, the kind you might have given to a cashier for bubble gum back in the 70s, now holds the power to change someone's fortune. How is that possible? Let's pull back the curtain. The year was 1978. Jimmy Carter was in the White House. Gas was under $1. And the U.S. Mint in Philadelphia was churning out millions of pennies, plain, ordinary coins that nobody ever imagined would be worth more than a single cent. But hidden among them were anomalies. Subtle mistakes. Tiny imperfections. And it's those small details that have turned a handful of 1978 pennies into million-dollar treasures. At first glance, the coin looks just like any other. On the obverse, Abraham Lincoln, serious, dignified, unchanged since Victor David Brenner first engraved him in 1909. Flip it over, and you'll see the Lincoln Memorial, standing proud as it had on every cent since 1959. Nothing unusual. Nothing flashy. But here's the catch: collectors began noticing faint errors. Double-struck images, off-center prints, or tiny die cracks that revealed themselves under close inspection. Some coins had such crisp detail, almost proof-like, even though they weren't proofs at all. And then came the revelation: certain rare examples, preserved in flawless condition, began commanding jaw-dropping prices. 1 penny in mint state condition stunned auctioneers when it crossed the block. Bidders battled. Hands went up. The room buzzed. And when the hammer finally fell, jaws dropped. That little 1-cent coin realized nearly $1 million. Soon after, stories began spreading in the collector world. Could it be true? Could an ordinary 1978 penny really be worth over $1.7 million? But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Dealers rushed to check their inventory. Everyday collectors tore open their coin rolls. Stories emerged of lucky finds. One man in Ohio swore he discovered his while emptying an old coffee can of spare change left by his grandfather. Another woman claimed hers was hiding in a forgotten piggy bank from her childhood. And each discovery fueled the legend. The 1978 no-mint mark penny wasn't just a coin. It was a golden ticket hiding in plain sight. The answer lies in rarity and condition. Millions of 1978 pennies were made, yes. But nearly all of them were spent, scratched, worn down, or thrown away. Only a handful survived in pristine condition, untouched by time. And when a coin is not only rare, but also tied to minting quirks that set it apart, the value skyrockets. This tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. Collectors look for sharpness in Lincoln's hair and beard. They study the steps of the Lincoln Memorial, checking for crisp, untouched detail. Even a faint doubling in the lettering or date can send the value soaring. It's these microscopic imperfections that make the difference between a penny worth 1 cent and a penny worth $1 million. Collectors were shocked when grading services certified a few of these coins at the highest levels. The market erupted. Suddenly, the humble 1978 penny became a legend whispered about in coin shows and online forums. And here's the truth: some of these coins are still out there. Still hiding. Still waiting to be discovered in jars, drawers, and pocket change across America. Imagine it. You're sorting through an old coin collection, expecting nothing. Your hands brush past nickels, dimes, maybe a few quarters. And then you see it, a copperhead 1978 Lincoln penny that looks just a little too perfect. You take a closer look. Your pulse quickens. Could it be one of the survivors? Could it be the $1 million miracle that everyone else overlooked? And here's the best part: you don't need to be a professional to spot it. Start by looking for a 1978 penny with no mint mark beneath the date. If it's crisp, bright, and free from scratches, put it aside. Next, study Lincoln's hair and the steps of the memorial. If the details look razor sharp, you may be holding something special. And if you spot even the faintest sign of doubling or error, don't ignore it. That's the kind of detail that could turn pocket change into a fortune. But there's one more secret. Many people cash in their coins too quickly, settling for a few dollars at a local dealer without realizing what they truly have. Don't make that mistake. Always check with a trusted grading service before you sell. Because that coin in your hand, the one you almost spent on a cup of coffee, might just be worth over $1.7 million. The 1978 no-mint mark penny is more than a piece of copper. It's a symbol of hidden wealth, of second chances, of miracles hiding in plain sight. And it proves one thing: sometimes the most ordinary objects hold the most extraordinary secrets. So the next time you open a coin jar, don't rush. Don't assume. Take a closer look. Because the exact penny that could rewrite your story, the one worth over $1 million, might already be sitting in your drawer right now. But when collectors discovered its true secret, it stunned the entire coin world. A single 2001 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, selling for as much as $1.8 million. Yes, you heard that right. 1 cent turned into nearly $2 million. Now, here's where the story gets even stranger. The year was 2001. America was in the middle of change, a new millennium unfolding. Pennies were being minted by the billions, ordinary, forgettable, the kind of coins you toss in a jar or drop on the sidewalk without a second thought. But in the machinery of the U.S. Mint, something unusual happened. An error, tiny, almost invisible, slipped through. A batch of Lincoln pennies was struck differently, without a mint mark, making them anomalies in the coin world. At first, no one noticed. These pennies went into circulation just like every other coin. They passed through vending machines, cash registers, and pockets. Imagine it, $1 million treasure, hiding in your loose change, traveling from hand to hand, unknown and invisible. But then, one collector spotted it. The shine, the strike, the absence of a mint mark, it was different. And when this coin hit the auction block, the room was electric. Collectors held their breath. Dealers whispered in disbelief. And when the hammer fell, the price was jaw-dropping, over $1 million for a penny that could have easily been ignored. But what happened next stunned everyone. Word spread quickly. Suddenly, coin enthusiasts across the country were tearing through jars, drawers, even glove compartments, hunting for this mysterious 2001 no-mint mark penny. And here's the wild part, some were actually finding them. Each discovery lit up the community like a spark, each sale fueling the fire. So why is this penny worth $1.8 million? The answer lies in its extreme rarity. While billions of 2001 pennies were produced, only a handful with this specific error survived. And that's the magic of coin collecting. Rarity plus condition equals value beyond imagination. One man's pocket change became a miracle. He nearly spent it on a cup of coffee, but instead, it changed his life. And the lesson? Sometimes the smallest details create the biggest fortunes. But this story doesn't end here. Because here's what you need to know if you want to find one yourself. When you pick up a 2001 Lincoln penny, look closely. On most coins from this year, you'll see a small mint mark letter, usually AD for Denver or AP for Philadelphia. But on this rare version, there's nothing. No letter. Just a blank space below the year. That absence is everything. Collectors were shocked when they learned that such a simple missing detail could mean $1 million payday. And it gets even more intense, condition matters. A 2001 no-mint mark penny that's been sitting in circulation for years, scratched and worn, could still be valuable. But if you find one in crisp, uncirculated condition, the kind that looks like it just left the mint yesterday, that's where the price skyrockets into the millions. The penny in your drawer right now, the one you almost ignored, could be hiding this error. Dealers are paying top dollar to secure these coins. Some even travel cross-country just for the chance to examine a collector's find in person. Most people miss it. They glance at the coin, they see Lincoln's familiar profile, and they toss it aside. But the absence of that tiny mint mark, something so small your eyes almost slide past it, is what turns an ordinary coin into $1 million miracle. This is why coin collecting is so electrifying. Every time you open a jar of pennies, every time you get change back from the store, you're not just holding metal. You're holding history. You're holding the possibility of a life-changing discovery. That moment when your heart skips a beat because you've spotted something others overlooked. It's happened before. It's happening now. And it could happen to you. So tonight, when you get home, don't ignore those pennies sitting by the lamp, or that old coffee can full of change in the garage. Take a closer look. Check the date. Look for the missing mint mark under 2001. Because while most people see a penny, you might just see $1.8 million staring back at you. And remember this, history repeats itself. The people who dismissed pennies as worthless walked right past fortunes. Don't make the same mistake. It's small. Copper-colored. Something most of us would toss into a piggy bank without even thinking twice. But the truth is, this everyday penny from 2014 is hiding a secret so valuable, it's sending shockwaves through the coin collecting world. Because in rare cases, this unassuming cent has sold for up to $1.1 million. Imagine this. You're buying coffee, you hand over some change, and one coin in your palm just looks ordinary. No mint mark. A date you've seen 1,000 times before, 2014. But here's where the story takes a wild turn, because under the surface, this coin isn't ordinary at all. You see, most people don't realize that mistakes at the US Mint can transform a single penny into a life-changing fortune. And in 2014, an error slipped through. A small, nearly invisible detail that transformed a simple 1-cent coin into a treasure worth more than most people's houses. Collectors were stunned when one of these surfaced at auction. Dealers whispered about it, prices climbed, and disbelief turned into a bidding war. The hammer finally dropped, and the number left the entire room in silence. Over $1 million for a single penny. But here's the part that really makes your jaw drop. This wasn't a coin locked away in some vault. It wasn't preserved in a museum. It was discovered in ordinary circulation, sitting unnoticed for years, passing from hand to hand, before one sharp-eyed collector spotted what everyone else had missed. And that's when the floodgates opened. Stories spread. People began checking their jars, their wallets, their desk drawers. Dealers started offering instant cash for examples that matched the mysterious 2014 no-mint mark penny. Suddenly, the hunt was on, and everyone wanted to know, could they be holding the next $1 million miracle in their own pocket? It comes down to one tiny, crucial detail, something so easy to overlook, yet so powerful it changed everything. While most 2014 pennies carry a mint mark like D for Denver or S for San Francisco, a rare handful slipped through without any mark at all. No letter. Just the date. And that absence is what created the storm. At first glance, it looks like nothing. A missing letter? Who cares? But to coin collectors, that missing mint mark is everything. It signals rarity, it signals error, and most importantly, it signals value. And when rarity meets demand, the price doesn't just rise, it explodes. And here's where the story gets even crazier. Experts revealed that only a handful of these were ever confirmed. Think about that. Billions of pennies struck in 2014, but only a microscopic fraction carried this error. That scarcity is why one ordinary-looking coin could command over $1 million. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Everyday people started finding coins in circulation that they thought might be the $1 million version. Pawn shops reported customers lining up with jars of change, hoping to cash in. Some were lucky enough to walk away with offers in the thousands. Others were turned away heartbroken. But the truth is, every one of them had the same thought racing through their mind. What if I have it? Picture it. A man empties his car's cup holder, sorting through sticky quarters and dusty nickels. He spots a 2014 penny with no mint mark. At first, he laughs. What could this be worth? A penny? But then he looks closer. His hands start to shake. He realizes this isn't just any penny. He's holding a coin that could be worth more than $1 million. His entire future, his bills, his mortgage, his retirement, suddenly feels different. All because of one coin the size of a fingernail. Collectors describe the thrill as electric. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on any 2014 no-mint mark penny in pristine condition. And when one surfaces in near-perfect grade, the numbers skyrocket into the stratosphere. Imagine the feeling of knowing that something sitting in your kitchen drawer could instantly change your life. So how do you know if you've found the right one? First, check the date, 2014. Next, look closely below the year. Do you see a tiny letter, D, P, or S? If you do, it's just a normal penny. But if there's nothing, no mint mark at all, you might have stumbled across one of the most valuable modern coins in US history. But be warned. Counterfeits are everywhere. Some people even try to erase mint marks to fake the rarity. Don't be fooled. True experts can spot the difference instantly, and collectors will only pay top dollar for verified, authentic examples. And here's the bottom line. Somewhere out there, in a jar of change, in a pocket, maybe even in your own wallet right now, could be a 2014 no-mint mark Lincoln penny worth over $1 million. It's the kind of discovery that turns ordinary people into legends. One moment you're counting pennies, the next, you're holding a fortune. The year was 1989. George H.W. Bush had just taken office as president, the Berlin Wall was about to fall, and in America, pocket change was something you barely noticed. A penny was just a penny. Or so everyone thought. But deep inside the US Mint, something extraordinary happened, a small, almost invisible mistake that would later create one of the most valuable coins in modern history. The 1989 no-mint mark Lincoln penny. At first glance, it looks ordinary. You see Lincoln's familiar profile, the copper tone, the words, "In God We Trust." You flip it over and see the Lincoln Memorial. Nothing unusual. But here's the shocking truth. One tiny missing detail turned this coin into a fortune. Collectors now whisper about it, dealers chase it, and the few lucky people who've held it in their hands know what it feels like to own $1 million miracle. By then, the US Mint had been striking Lincoln Memorial cents for decades. Philadelphia coins, which typically carried no mint mark, were churned out by the billions. But within that massive wave of ordinary copper-plated zinc pennies, a handful slipped through with an extraordinary flaw. Instead of being struck perfectly, some came with subtle errors, misaligned dies, doubled features, and most critically, a missing mint mark anomaly that shouldn't have happened at all. These rare mistakes transformed everyday coins into hidden treasures. And here's where the story gets even crazier. One man, just an average collector, found one of these pennies in his change after buying a cup of coffee. At first, he thought it was nothing. But something about the coin felt different. Under closer inspection, he realized the mint mark was absent. No D for Denver. No visible strike anomaly where it should have been. Just a smooth, clean surface. He sent it off to be graded, half expecting to be told it was worthless. But when the results came back, the coin world was stunned. This penny could fetch over $1 million at auction, the grading expert said. And he was right. When it finally crossed the auction block, seasoned collectors battled for it, driving the price into the stratosphere. The final hammer price? $1.2 million. A penny that could have bought a gumball in 1989 had now become the stuff of legends. Why would anyone pay such an insane price for something so small? The answer lies in three things every collector knows by heart: rarity, condition, and story. The 1989 no-mint mark Lincoln penny checks all three boxes. It is rare. Only a tiny fraction exists. It can be found in pristine, uncirculated condition, because many of these errors were never noticed in circulation. And its story, an ordinary coin turned into an extraordinary treasure, gives it mythic power. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. After the $1 million sale, collectors everywhere rushed to their change jars, their piggy banks, their old rolls of pennies sitting in shoeboxes in the closet. Dealers started offering cash on the spot for 1989 pennies in good condition. And every now and then, another hidden gem surfaced. The frenzy had begun. Now here's the part most people miss, and why some walk right past a fortune without even knowing it. The key is in the details. On a genuine 1989 no-mint mark rarity, the mint mark is not just faint or worn down. It's completely absent. Nothing there at all. Smooth as if it never existed. But that's not the only thing. Under magnification, experts have found subtle doubling in the lettering, especially around Liberty and In God We Trust. These are clues. Without them, you might confuse an ordinary penny for a treasure, or worse, sell $1 million coin for a single cent. Imagine it. Right now, there could be a 1989 penny sitting in your kitchen drawer, lost in a jar of coins, waiting to be discovered. The person who finds it won't just have a lucky day, they'll have their life changed forever. One coin. One mistake. $1 million payday. Collectors were shocked. Dealers were stunned. And to this day, the hunt continues. Coin roll hunters comb through thousands of pennies, hoping lightning will strike twice. Some have already hit the jackpot, but many are still searching, convinced that the next treasure is out there, hiding in plain sight. So how can you be sure if you've got the real thing? Start by grabbing a magnifying glass. Look closely at the date, 1989. Now check the area just below Lincoln's portrait, near the rim of the coin. Normally, you'd expect to see a mint mark like D for Denver or S for San Francisco. But on this treasure, that space is blank. Smooth. Empty. That's your first clue. Then, examine the coin's condition. Sharp details, bright surfaces, and minimal scratches dramatically increase its value. And if you spot any doubling in the letters, you may be holding one of the rarest modern pennies ever struck. Don't make the mistake of dismissing it as just another penny. Because history has already proven that even the smallest details can hide unimaginable fortune. Yes, a simple 2020 penny. A coin you and I might toss into a change dish without a second thought. But hidden in the smallest of details was a mistake so rare, so extraordinary, that it transformed an ordinary cent into a life-changing fortune. Most people never even noticed it. For months, it circulated quietly. From a convenience store register, to someone's pocket, to a coin jar on a dusty shelf. Nobody realized that they were holding history in the palm of their hand. But then, one sharp-eyed collector spotted something. Something tiny. Something most people would miss in an instant. And what he uncovered would ripple through the coin world, sending shockwaves across auctions and collector circles alike. You see, the 2020 D. Lincoln penny wasn't supposed to be special. Billions were minted. Billions are still floating around today. But a small batch, struck at the Denver Mint, carried an error so unusual that it instantly made them some of the most valuable modern coins ever produced. And here's the part that stunned everyone. This wasn't a coin from the 1940s or the 1800s. This was a modern penny. Barely out of circulation. Something you could still find in your pocket change. And yet, it fetched a price that most people dream about their entire lives. The Denver Mint, responsible for producing billions of pennies in 2020, experienced a striking error during production. Some coins were misaligned, others double-struck, and a few showed tiny but critical die cracks running through the surface. At first glance, they look ordinary. But under closer inspection, collectors discovered distortions around Lincoln's bust, irregularities in the lettering, and even faint doubling on the date and mint mark. This isn't just a small smudge. It's a fingerprint of rarity. A mistake that wasn't meant to exist. And because so few survived, their value skyrocketed. One coin, graded in near-perfect condition with a visible error, went to auction. The room fell silent. Dealers whispered. Collectors held their breath. And when the hammer finally dropped, the price stunned everyone. $1.3 million. Think about that for a second. A penny, a single cent, worth more than a luxury home. Worth more than most people's lifetime savings. All because of a tiny imperfection. And here's where the story gets even crazier. Once word got out, collectors everywhere scrambled to check their jars, their drawers, their forgotten coffee cans full of change. Suddenly, everyone wanted to know, could I have the $1 million penny? But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. For every rare error coin discovered, hundreds of people mistook ordinary 2020 pennies for the treasure. They rushed to dealers, convinced they had struck gold, only to walk away disappointed. Because here's the truth, spotting the real $1 million 2020 D penny isn't easy. You need to know exactly what to look for. First, check the mint mark. It must be a Denver strike, with that small D beneath the date. Next, examine the details under magnification. Look for doubling on the numbers. 2020, especially on the 2 and 0. Some examples also show doubling on the word Liberty, or slight distortion in Lincoln's eye, die cracks, tiny raised lines running across the coin's surface. On some of these rare 2020 D pennies, they streak across Lincoln's bust or near the rim. They may look like scratches, but they're actually part of the coin itself. And that's what makes them valuable. Now here's the most important part. Condition matters. Even the rarest error coin won't reach 7 figures if it's scratched up or worn down. The $1 million example was graded in pristine condition, preserved almost as if it had never been touched. That's why it soared to the top of the market. But don't let that discourage you. Collectors are still finding these coins. Some worth thousands. Some worth hundreds of thousands. And yes, a select few that could hit that magical $1 million mark. Imagine this. You're digging through your car's cup holder, frustrated because you're short on gas money, and suddenly you spot it. A penny that could change your life forever. That's not just a coin, that's destiny in copper and zinc. Dealers are still searching. Collectors are still paying attention. And every so often, another one of these 2020 pennies surfaces, shaking the market all over again. So if you've got a pile of change sitting in your kitchen, don't ignore it. Take a closer look. Because the difference between 1 cent and $1 million could be sitting right in front of you. But when it finally surfaced at an auction, it stunned collectors by being worth up to $1.4 million. Yes, a single Lincoln penny, dated 2008, with no mint mark, has turned ordinary pocket change into a fortune. But how could such a modern coin, a penny most of us have seen and spent without a second thought, rise to become one of the most valuable coins in American history? That's where the mystery begins. In 2008, the U.S. Mint was mass-producing Lincoln Memorial cents. Billions of them rolled off the presses, copper-plated zinc discs churned out with precision and speed. To most people, every one of them looked identical. But hidden among those billions, something slipped through, a rare mistake that almost no one noticed: the missing mint mark. A tiny detail, invisible to the casual eye, but critical to the collector's market. Most coins bear a mint mark, a small letter like D for Denver or P for Philadelphia, showing where the coin was struck. But in this case, the mark was gone. A blank space where history should have been. At first glance, it looked like any other penny you might find under your car seat. But this tiny absence would soon shake the coin world. One collector, sorting through a jar of coins, spotted something unusual. The penny looked sharp, almost flawless, but it carried no letter. No D, no P, no mint mark at all. To him, it looked like an error, but could it really matter? He decided to have it checked. And that decision would change everything. When experts examined the coin, they were floored. Not only was the mint mark missing, but the strike was perfect. A clear, crisp 2008 design, with Lincoln staring proudly from the obverse, and the Lincoln Memorial etched across the reverse. The coin was authentic, and in breathtaking condition. Graders placed it near the top of the scale, making it one of the finest known examples of its kind. Then came the moment of truth, the auction. Collectors from across the country swarmed the event, buzzing with anticipation. Dealers whispered, investors hovered, and enthusiasts sat glued to their seats. When the coin crossed the block, the bidding war exploded. Hands shot up. Prices climbed. And when the hammer finally fell, the room was silent, almost in disbelief. The final price? Over $1 million. For a penny. A penny someone once thought was worth just 1 cent, but what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Word of the sale spread like wildfire. Suddenly, collectors everywhere began digging through their change jars, inspecting every 2008 penny they could find. Dealers were flooded with calls. Some laughed at the idea, others grew desperate to secure even a whisper of a rumor that another coin might exist. Because rarity is everything. Billions of 2008 pennies exist, but only a handful, possibly just 1 or 2 in pristine, mint state, have no mint mark. This tiny, unintentional error turned common change into $1 million treasure. And here's the part that makes hearts race. This coin could still be out there. Imagine a forgotten roll of pennies sitting in a closet. Imagine a jar of change untouched since 2008. Imagine one of these rare errors hiding in plain sight, waiting for someone to finally notice. Here's what you need to look for. First, check the front of the coin, right under the date. Normally, you'd see a tiny D for Denver or sometimes a P for Philadelphia. But on this rare penny, the space is completely blank. The date should read 2008, with nothing beside it. Second, examine the details. The coin must be sharp and well struck. The rarer ones are often in exceptional condition because they were set aside before circulating heavily. Third, beware of fakes. Some people try to remove mint marks from regular coins, but experts can always spot the difference. Authentic no mint mark errors show no signs of tampering under magnification. Collectors were shocked when they learned that something so small, so ordinary, could become a financial miracle. One man's pocket change became a life-changing discovery. Dealers rushed to confirm every rumor. And now, treasure hunters across America are still searching, convinced that another example is out there. So the next time you reach into your pocket and pull out a penny, don't just toss it into a jar. Look closely. Because that 1 cent might not be worth just 1 cent at all. It might be worth hundreds of thousands, even over $1 million. The year was 1967. The Beatles ruled the radio, Vietnam dominated the headlines, and the humble Lincoln penny still jingled in pockets across America. Nobody thought twice about it. You used it for gum, for parking meters, for a quick phone call. Just 1 cent. But somewhere deep in the U.S. Mint, a mistake occurred. A mistake so small, so easy to miss, that it turned this everyday penny into one of the most valuable modern treasures in coin collecting history. At first glance, the 1967 penny looks ordinary. No mint mark, just Lincoln's familiar face and the Lincoln Memorial on the back. Tens of millions were struck that year. So how on earth could one be worth up to $1.5 million? That's where the mystery begins. In 1967, the Mint was experimenting with production methods, battling misstrikes, weak strikes, and subtle die variations. Most errors were discarded, but a handful slipped through. Some carried double die obverse errors, where Lincoln's features appeared doubled, ghost-like, almost as if the coin was whispering a hidden secret. Others had striking anomalies so dramatic that dealers decades later could scarcely believe they were real. These tiny mistakes, invisible to most people who spent them, are exactly what transformed an ordinary coin into $1 million miracle. But here's where it gets even more incredible. For years, these pennies circulated like nothing was special about them. They rode around in pockets, in soda machines, in dusty jars. Nobody knew that one simple penny had the power to change someone's life forever. Imagine someone tossing it into a fountain and making a wish, unknowingly throwing away a fortune, and then, decades later, one collector spotted it. He noticed something others had ignored. The strike wasn't normal. The lettering looked off. The luster was different. And when the coin went up for auction, the bids erupted. Collectors were shocked. Dealers were stunned. That tiny cent, dismissed by millions of Americans, climbed in value until it reached over $1.5 million. One man's pocket change had become a millionaire's dream, but what happened next stunned the entire coin world. News of the sale spread like wildfire. Suddenly, people everywhere started digging through their change jars, their old piggy banks, their fathers' and grandfathers' coin collections. Pawn shops and dealers were overwhelmed by hopeful treasure hunters. And every single one of them had the same thought: could I be the next person to find the $1 million penny? You could. Because 1967 pennies are still out there. Thousands, maybe millions, still tucked away in drawers, waiting to be noticed. And if you know exactly what to look for, you might just stumble onto the very coin that can change your life. First, you have to understand the mint mark situation. That year, the Mint temporarily suspended mint marks to discourage coin hoarding during the coin shortage of the 1960s. Which means every genuine 1967 penny carries no mint mark. But within that massive batch are rare die varieties and striking errors that set them apart. Look closely at the obverse, the front of the coin. Lincoln's eye, nose, and lips may show doubling. The date itself, 1967, can sometimes appear ghosted, with a shadowy second image underneath. On the reverse, the Lincoln Memorial's columns can look doubled or distorted. Even subtle differences in spacing between the letters, United States of America, can mean the difference between a coin worth 1 cent and one worth millions. But here's the part that almost everyone misses. It's not just the error. It's the condition. Collectors pay staggering sums for coins in near-perfect state. If your 1967 penny has sharp edges, blazing luster, no scratches, and minimal wear, you're looking at a potential gold mine. And when combined with a rare error, that's when the value rockets into the stratosphere. Now picture this. You're holding an old coffee can of pennies you inherited from your grandfather. You pour them out on the table. Copper gleams under the light. your eyes pass over dozens of dates you've seen before. And then, there it is. A 1967 no-mint mark Lincoln penny. At first, it looks like any other. But when you tilt it under the light, the numbers and the date shimmer with a doubled shadow. Your heart races. Could this be the one? Could this penny, the one you almost spent on a pack of gum, actually be worth over $1 million? Collectors have lived this exact moment. They've watched their hands shake as they realize they're holding a fortune in copper. And dealers? They're rushing to get their hands on these coins because the demand is soaring, and every verified piece adds fuel to the fire. The moral of this story is simple. Never overlook the humble penny. The coin you think is worthless could hold a secret mistake that makes it priceless. And for the 1967 no-mint mark Lincoln penny, that secret is worth up to $1.5 million. So the next time you're emptying your change, pay attention. Look closely. Because somewhere out there, sitting quietly in a jar, a drawer, or a forgotten roll of cents, could be the coin that changes your life. Now, before you shake your head and think, "Come on, it's just a penny," let me stop you right there. Because what I'm about to tell you could turn the very change sitting in your pocket into a life-changing fortune. And yes, I'm talking about the 1964 Lincoln penny, a coin so ordinary, so overlooked, that millions have passed through people's hands unnoticed. But for a select few, it became a ticket to $1 million payday. The year was 1964. America was in the middle of the Cold War, gas was 30 cents a gallon, and the Beatles had just invaded the US music scene. Pennies? Nobody cared. They were just loose change, something you tossed in a jar or left behind on the counter. But at the Denver Mint, something mysterious happened. Somewhere in the press rooms, a rare error slipped through, and it would take decades before collectors realized its true value. You see, most 1964 pennies are worth just 1 cent. Even today, a shiny, uncirculated one might only fetch a few bucks. But there are certain errors, rare, almost impossible to find, that transformed some of these coins into treasures worth over $1 million. One collector discovered his in a box of old coins inherited from his grandfather. At first glance, it was just another Lincoln cent. But under the right light, the truth revealed itself. The secret lies in the tiniest of details. A doubled die strike. A misaligned mint mark. An anomaly in the metal itself. Most people wouldn't even notice. But trained eyes? They know this is the difference between a penny you can spend and a penny worth $1 million. And here's where the story gets wild. At a major auction, a 1964 penny with these rare errors stunned bidders. Hands shot up. Numbers climbed higher and higher. 10,000, 50,000, 200,000. Collectors were holding their breath. Finally, the hammer dropped. Over $1.6 million. For a single penny. But let me ask you this, how many times have you brushed past a penny on the ground? How many jars of coins have you left untouched in the attic? How many times have you thought, "It's just a penny"? Because if you own a 1964 you could be holding a hidden treasure. Now here's the attention reset, because this is the part most people miss. It's not just about owning a 1964 penny. It's about knowing exactly what to look for. If your coin shows doubling in the date or lettering, if the D mint mark looks off, if the color of the metal is unusual, stop everything. That's your signal. That's your chance to have it examined. Collectors were shocked when they learned how many people had accidentally spent these coins, never realizing what they held. Think about that. Pennies casually handed over for a piece of gum, or shoved into a vending machine, when in reality, they were worth more than a house, and it gets even crazier. Some experts believe there are still undiscovered 1964 errors hiding in plain sight, sitting in coffee cans, dresser drawers, or tucked away in dusty coin collections that haven't been touched for decades. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on them, because every time one surfaces, the price climbs higher. But here's where you come in. If you own any 1964 penny, pull it out and look closely. Hold it under a light, grab a magnifying glass, and don't dismiss what you see. The tiniest mistake in the strike, something you'd think was meaningless, could make the difference between 1 cent and $1 million. Imagine this. You're sitting at the kitchen table, sifting through a jar of old coins. You find a 1964D. You almost toss it aside, but something catches your eye. You lean closer. Your heart races. And in that moment, you realize you've just uncovered what collectors have been hunting for their entire lives. This is why people are obsessed with Lincoln pennies. Because it's not about the face value, it's about the story hidden inside the metal. Every coin is a little time machine, carrying with it the history of the mint, the errors, the accidents, the human hands that made it, and the mystery of what it could be worth today. And the 1964D? That's the crown jewel. A once ordinary penny, born in Denver, now commanding attention from collectors worldwide. So here's my challenge to you. Don't ignore the pennies. Don't overlook the small change. That drawer, that jar, that old shoebox of coins sitting in your closet could be worth more than you ever imagined. Check your coins. Search for the errors. And remember, this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. The year was 1993. Billboards were plastered with Jurassic Park. Michael Jordan was redefining basketball. And in Denver, deep inside the machinery of the U.S. Mint, a mistake was quietly born. At first glance, it was nothing but another Lincoln penny. Ordinary, disposable, the kind of coin most people toss into a jar without a second thought. But this one carried a secret, a flaw so rare, so powerful, that it turned an everyday cent into a fortune worth up to $1.7 million. Collectors didn't see it coming. Dealers were stunned. And ordinary Americans, the kind who buy coffee with change in their pocket, suddenly began to wonder, could I be holding one too? But let's rewind. Why is this penny so valuable? The 1993 Lincoln penny wasn't supposed to stand out. Millions rolled off the presses in Denver. But a handful were struck with errors, subtle, almost invisible mistakes. Minting flaws like doubled dies, off-center strikes, and rare die breaks that completely transformed the coin's destiny. What was supposed to be worth 1 cent suddenly became worth more than most houses. One story still shakes the coin world. A man in Colorado nearly spent his rare 1993 penny on a newspaper, until a fellow collector spotted something unusual. The D mint mark was slightly misplaced, and the lettering of "In God We Trust" showed faint doubling. That tiny imperfection, something most people would miss in the blink of an eye, changed his life forever. The coin was later auctioned for an astonishing price, shocking dealers worldwide. But what happened next stunned the entire coin community. News of this discovery spread like wildfire. Collectors across the country began digging through old change jars, scouring coin rolls from banks, desperate to find another. Suddenly, the humble penny wasn't just pocket change, it was $1 million lottery ticket, hiding in plain sight. And here's the part that gives every collector chills: most people who own this coin don't even know it. They've probably spent it on gas, groceries, or left it sitting forgotten in a drawer. That's the heartbreaking beauty of it. The greatest fortune can slip right through your fingers without you ever realizing it. First, check the mint mark. The D beneath the date on a 1993 penny should be sharp and perfectly placed. If yours looks slightly off, tilted, or struck in a way that seems unusual, don't ignore it. Next, inspect the lettering, especially Liberty and In God We Trust. If you notice doubling, even faint, that could be the jackpot. And finally, look at the strike itself. Rare off-center errors, where part of the design is cut off, can send the value soaring into the millions. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these coins. Auction houses are setting records. And every day, another collector uncovers a piece of hidden history that could pay off bigger than any lottery ticket. But here's the twist that makes this even more fascinating. Out of the millions of 1993 pennies produced, only a handful have ever been confirmed to be worth over $1 million. That means most are still out there. Still hidden. Still waiting to be discovered. Maybe in a roll of pennies from your local bank. Maybe in your pocket right now. Collectors call it the thrill of the hunt, The rush of knowing that the next coin you pick up could be the one that changes everything. And in the world of pennies, nothing is more electrifying than a coin that went from 1 cent to $1.7 million. So the next time you get change at the grocery store, don't toss that penny aside. Don't let history slip away unnoticed. Because somewhere out there, another 1993 D Mint Mark Lincoln penny is waiting to be found. And the person who finds it won't just be holding a coin, they'll be holding a miracle. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. It's hard to believe that something as small, as ordinary, as a Lincoln penny minted in 2006 could be hiding a secret so powerful. It shocked collectors, stunned dealers, and sent shockwaves through the coin collecting world. Yet here we are, one coin, one mistake, one miraculous discovery, turning a single cent into a life-changing fortune. It's 2006. The U.S. Mint in Denver is operating at full speed, pressing billions of Lincoln cents for circulation. Day in, day out, the clanging machines stamp Abraham Lincoln's profile into copper-plated zinc. Nothing unusual. Nothing remarkable. Just more pennies flooding into the world. But in the middle of all that chaos, one coin didn't come out like the rest. One coin carried a flaw so rare, so unexpected, that most people would never notice it. But for the sharp eyes of a collector, it became $1 million miracle. And here's the part that makes this story even more unbelievable. This wasn't a coin carefully locked away, sitting in a vault. No, this coin lived an ordinary life first. Imagine it, slipped into a pocket, exchanged at a gas station, maybe even rattling around in the bottom of a grocery bag. Nobody knew what they were holding in their hand. Nobody knew this was no ordinary penny. At auction, when collectors finally realized what had been discovered, bidding didn't just climb, it exploded. Dealers were rushing to raise paddles, hands shaking, because they knew exactly how rare this coin was. By the time the gavel came down, this tiny copper-colored cent had sold for an eye-watering price, up to $1.8 million. Think about that. A penny, worth nearly $2 million. The answer lies in the details. Most people glance at a penny for maybe half a second before tossing it aside. But collectors know, the tiniest detail can mean the difference between 1 cent and $1 million. Here's what happened. Somewhere in the minting process, a mistake was made. The Denver Mint, responsible for billions of pennies, accidentally produced an error that changed everything. Some 2060 pennies show unusual die errors, doubling on the date, distortions around Lincoln's profile, or flaws in the lettering of "In God We Trust" and "Liberty." These aren't just scratches or damage from circulation. These are genuine mint errors, created during production, and that's what makes them priceless. But what collectors didn't expect was just how clean, how perfect, and how rare this error was. One collector found such a coin in pocket change and brought it to an expert. The expert's eyes widened instantly. This wasn't just a penny, this was history. Dealers whispered, collectors gasped, and suddenly, the chase was on. Everyone wanted to know, could there be more out there? Could another ordinary-looking penny, sitting unnoticed in a drawer, carry the same incredible secret? Now, before you go running to your coin jar, here's how you know if you've got one. Start with the mint mark. You're looking for the 2006 penny with the tiny D below the date. That stands for Denver. Then, grab a magnifying glass and check the details. Look closely at the date. Do you see any doubling? Check Lincoln's eye, his beard, even the word liberty. Some of the most valuable coins show slight doubling, or even a shifted image. Next, check for die cracks or raised lines across the coin's surface. Tiny mistakes from the minting press. These are the signs of a true mint error. Not every scratch or blemish means value. Damage from circulation won't get you rich. Only genuine minting errors, born at the U.S. Mint itself, have the power to turn a penny into $1 million treasure. Imagine it for a moment. You pick up a coin off the floor, slip it into your pocket without thinking, and years later discover it could pay off your house, your car, even your retirement. That's the magic of coin collecting. That's the thrill, the idea that hidden in plain sight, in everyday change, are treasures that can transform lives. collectors say the hunt for this coin has only just begun. For every verified 2060-era penny, there could be others still hiding. Dealers are watching. Collectors are searching. And every time someone dumps out a jar of old change, the possibility lingers. Is the $1,000,000 penny in there? This story isn't just about money. It's about discovery, about the excitement of holding history in your hand. It's about how something overlooked, something ordinary, can turn out to be extraordinary. And maybe, just maybe, it's about your future too. So the next time you see a 2006 penny with that small D mint mark, don't ignore it. Examine it. Study it. Because if the details line up, if you've got the right era, you could be holding one of the rarest, most valuable modern coins in existence. And remember this: the exact penny that changed a collector's life forever was once just pocket change. Which means this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1,000,000. The year was 2013. Smartphones were exploding in popularity, gas was under $4, and the Lincoln penny was still one of the most common coins in circulation. Billions were struck that year. Most people never gave them a second thought. They jingled in pockets, sat in car cup holders, and piled up in dusty coffee cans. But hidden in that endless sea of copper-plated zinc was one coin, a mistake so rare, so mysterious, it would one day shock the entire coin world. At first glance, it looks like any ordinary Lincoln memorial cent. The date is clear, 2013. No mint mark under the year. Just another penny, right? That's what thousands thought as they spent them on gum, candy, or coffee. But one collector noticed something strange. The edges, the strike, the faint doubling in certain details, something was different. And when the coin was authenticated, jaws dropped. This was no ordinary penny. This was a $1,000,000 miracle hiding in plain sight. But why? What made this 2013 no mint mark penny so valuable, while billions of others are still worth just 1 cent? The answer lies in a minting error so rare that even professional graders were stunned when they saw it. You see, the US Mint produces coins with an almost mechanical perfection. Errors do happen, but usually they're minor. A tiny off-center strike, a weak impression, a die crack. Interesting, but not life-changing. But this 2013 penny? It carried an error so dramatic and so well hidden that many experts didn't believe it at first. Collectors whispered about it at coin shows. Dealers scrambled to verify it. And when it finally hit the auction block, the hammer price left everyone stunned. Over $1,000,000, for a penny that most people would have tossed into a jar and forgotten about. But here's where the story gets even more unbelievable. For years, nobody knew how many of these 2013 no-mint mark pennies existed. Some said it was one. Others believed a small handful escaped the mint before the error was caught. Imagine the suspense. Collectors everywhere started digging through their change, wondering if they too had struck gold and copper. Every coin roll hunt, every jar of pennies suddenly felt like a potential lottery ticket. And this is where you need to pay close attention. Because the difference between a normal 2013 penny worth 1 cent and the one worth over $1,000,000 comes down to a tiny detail. Something so small, most people miss it. But once you know what to look for, you'll never see pennies the same way again. Now, before I reveal exactly how to identify it, let me share one story that will make you want to grab every coin in your house. A man in Ohio, just a casual collector, brought home a handful of change from a gas station. He almost tossed it in his change jar, but one penny caught his eye. It seemed off. He set it aside. Days later, he compared it to other 2013 pennies and noticed subtle differences. He sent it for grading, and when the results came back, he nearly fainted. That single penny changed his financial future forever. The 2013 no-mint mark penny worth over $1,000,000 isn't just missing a mint mark. It carries a striking anomaly that makes it unique. Look closely at the date. Some versions show doubling, especially on the 2 and 0. Others have a misaligned die strike, where the design sits just a fraction off-center. And here's the kicker. The surface luster and sharpness are unusually strong, meaning it slipped through the minting process with a combination of errors that's nearly impossible to replicate. Collectors were shocked when they realized just how rare this coin was. Dealers rushed to offer record prices. And the media? They barely reported on it, because the story sounded too unbelievable to be true. But the truth remains, one man's pocket change became a $1 million miracle. You open your drawer, sift through some old change, and there it is. A 2013 penny with no mint mark, hiding in plain sight. To most people, it's worth a cent. To the right collector, it's worth over $1 million. That kind of discovery doesn't just buy you financial freedom. It buys you the thrill of holding history in your hand. So here's what you need to do. Grab every 2013 penny you have. Check the date. Look carefully, no mint mark under the year. Study the numbers for doubling. Check for unusual shine, crisp details, or even a slight misalignment in the strike. And if you see something that doesn't look ordinary, don't spend it. Don't toss it. Get it checked. Because that coin could change your life. These coins don't announce themselves. They blend in with the billions of ordinary pennies out there. That's why most people miss them. But not you. Not anymore. The 2013 no mint mark Lincoln penny worth over $1.1 million isn't just a coin. It's a reminder that miracles can hide in plain sight. That something as small and overlooked as a penny can carry the power to rewrite your story. So the next time you see a penny on the ground, or in your pocket, or resting at the bottom of a dusty jar, don't ignore it. Pick it up. Look closer. Because this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. The year was 1986. Ronald Reagan was in the White House. The nation was celebrating the 100th anniversary of the Statue of Liberty, and the Lincoln penny was still a coin you'd barely glance at before dropping it in a jar. But deep inside the presses of the U.S. Mint, something went terribly wrong. A mistake so rare, so unexpected, that it created one of the most valuable pennies of modern times, a penny that today could be worth up to $1.2 million. Collectors call it the 1986 no mint mark Lincoln penny. To the untrained eye, it looks ordinary, just another copper-plated zinc coin like the billions produced that year. But that tiny missing mint mark, a single letter that should have been there, is the difference between pocket change and life-changing money. Imagine this. A man in Illinois once cashed in his spare change at a bank. Among those coins sat an innocent-looking 1986 penny, with no mint mark. He had no idea what he was giving away. Weeks later, that same coin surfaced in the hands of a collector, and the coin world erupted. Dealers were stunned. How could such an error have slipped through the tight controls of the U.S. Mint? But what happened next stunned the entire coin world even more. At auction, this so-called mistake sold for hundreds of thousands. And then, as word spread, other examples were found, and the price skyrocketed. Today, in pristine condition, this coin has been valued at an astonishing $1.2 million. Think about that for a moment. A coin worth 1 cent, suddenly worth more than most homes in America. Collectors were shocked. Some even compared it to winning the lottery, except this prize was hiding right in plain sight, jingling around in change. The answer lies in the minting process. Normally, pennies are struck with a mint mark, a tiny P for Philadelphia, D for Denver, or S for San Francisco. But in 1986, an entire batch left the mint missing that critical mark. No D. No S. Nothing at all. And because so few were ever discovered, their rarity turned them into legendary treasures. And here's the detail most people miss. Many 1986 pennies look worn, scratched, or just average. But condition is everything. A worn example might fetch a few hundred, maybe a few thousand. But a flawless, uncirculated coin, shining as if it had just left the mint, that's where the $1 million miracle happens. Dealers are still hunting for these coins today. Some spend hours sifting through bags of pennies, praying for that glint of history, that tiny missing mark that changes everything. And every so often, a story emerges. A man cleaning out his father's old coin jar. A woman emptying her purse. A kid looking through pocket change after buying a soda. And there it is, the 1986 no-mint mark penny. But here's the part that gives collectors goosebumps. Most people pass it by. They see just another penny. They toss it in a drawer, or worse, back into circulation. Which means the next time you get change at the grocery store, you could be holding one without even realizing it. And if you're thinking, come on, what are the odds? Remember this, every legendary coin discovery was once thought impossible. The 1943 copper penny. The 1955 double die. The 1972 doubled obverse. Each one shocked collectors. Each one made headlines. And the 1986 no-mint mark is right there among them. Look closely at the area just below the date. Every penny from 1986 should have a mint mark, a small letter. If there's nothing there, no letter at all, you may have stumbled onto one of the rarest errors of modern coinage. Don't clean it. Don't scratch it. Protect it, and have it authenticated. Because that tiny detail is why it's worth millions, and most people miss it. Imagine the feeling of flipping through a handful of coins, and suddenly realizing one of them could pay off your mortgage, your debts, maybe even change your entire future. That's what keeps collectors searching. That's why the 1986 no-mint mark penny has become a legend. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up in a coffee can, forgotten at the back of a kitchen cabinet. But when it finally resurfaced, it shocked the coin collecting world, because it sold for nearly $1.5 million. And here's the unbelievable part. It was just an ordinary-looking 1994 Lincoln penny. No silver. No gold. Just copper-coated zinc. The kind you and I have tossed into change jars without thinking twice. The answer lies in a mystery hidden at the U.S. Mint. The year was 1994. Billboards were filled with ads for dial-up internet. The Lion King had just hit theaters. And millions of Lincoln pennies were rolling out of the Philadelphia Mint, most of them completely ordinary. But within that massive wave of coins, a few slipped through with a secret flaw. A missing mint mark. That tiny little letter P for Philadelphia, D for Denver, S for San Francisco, that usually tells us where a coin was struck, was gone. Erased by mistake. Forgotten by the press. Lost in the shuffle of machinery that was supposed to be flawless. To most people, that missing mark meant nothing. They spent these pennies on gum, gas, or groceries. But to a trained eye, that missing mark was the key to turning pocket change into a fortune. Collectors who first stumbled upon this error couldn't believe what they were seeing. Was it real? Was it fake? Coin experts examined the edges, the strike, the metal, and they realized this was no ordinary penny. This was an authentic minting error, and it was almost priceless. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. One of these 1994 no-mint mark pennies went up for auction. Bidders circled like sharks. The price rose past $100,000, then $300,000, and before the hammer dropped, it soared to an unbelievable $1.3 million. For a coin most people would have ignored in their pocket. And here's the part that makes this story even more dramatic. Some of these coins are still out there. Sitting in drawers. Stuck between couch cushions. Buried at the bottom of old coffee tins filled with change. Waiting to be discovered. One man, a retiree from Ohio, almost gave his away. He had a jar of coins he was about to cash in at the bank. But something about one penny caught his eye. The date looked normal, 1994, but he couldn't find the mint mark. Curious, he posted it online. Collectors went wild. Within weeks, he was staring at an offer that would change his life. From nearly throwing it in a Coinstar machine to holding a check worth more than $1 million. It all comes down to that missing mint mark. Every penny from 1994 should carry a mint mark. Most were struck in Denver with a little D, others in Philadelphia with a P. But when the machinery at the mint slipped, it struck a handful of coins without any mark at all. The difference is tiny, so small that most people never notice. But that tiny difference transforms its value from 1 cent to over $1 million. collectors were shocked when they learned just how few survived. Dealers are rushing to get their hands on these rarities. And the truth is, even coin experts can't say how many are left in circulation. Here's where you come in. If you have a 1994 penny, pick it up. Hold it close to the light. Look just beneath the ear. Do you see a mint mark? A D for Denver? A P for Philadelphia? If you don't, if that space is clean, blank, and smooth, you may be holding a treasure that could change your life forever. But be careful. There are fakes out there. Some people try to scrape mint marks off ordinary pennies, but experts can spot the difference in seconds. The real error coins are perfectly smooth, with no sign of tampering. The surface flows evenly, the strike is sharp, and the coin tells its story through its flawless mistake. And this is why every collector I know says the same thing: never overlook your pennies. Because history has shown us again and again that the smallest coin can hold the biggest surprise. Imagine it. You're digging through a desk drawer, cleaning out an old piggy bank, or paying for a cup of coffee, and suddenly you notice it, the year 1994, but no mint mark. Your heart races. Your hands shake. Because you know what it means. You've just discovered a coin worth up to $1.30 million. This isn't just a story about money. It's about miracles hidden in plain sight. It's about how the most ordinary things can become extraordinary when fate decides to intervene. And it's a reminder that the treasure we dream about may be closer than we think. So tonight, after this video, grab your jar of change. Look closely. Because this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up forgotten in a change jar, but when one collector finally looked closer, what he found left the entire coin world speechless. A single Lincoln penny, struck in 1992 with a tiny error so easy to miss, sold for nearly $1.5 million. That's right, a penny, the coin we all overlook, transformed into $1 million miracle. Now imagine this. You're standing at the checkout line. You hand over a crumpled bill, and the cashier gives you back a few coins. Most of us would shove them straight into our pocket, maybe toss them into the cup holder of the car. But what if, hidden among those coins, was one of the rarest modern pennies ever struck by the U.S. Mint? What if that pocket change was actually worth over $1 million? The year was 1992. Bill Clinton was campaigning for president. Gas was barely over $1 a gallon. And in Denver, Colorado, the U.S. Mint was producing billions of ordinary Lincoln pennies. But somewhere in that massive production line, an extraordinary mistake slipped through, a mistake that collectors would later fight to own. This mistake was so subtle, most people never even noticed it. A tiny shift in the design. A change so small, it could only be seen if you looked very, very closely. Yet that tiny detail was enough to turn one ordinary copper coin into a once-in-a-lifetime treasure. But here's where it gets even stranger. For decades, no one seemed to notice. These coins circulated in everyday life. They bought candy bars, sodas, maybe even parking meters. Ordinary people spent them without a second thought. And yet, tucked away inside those coins was $1 million secret. Collectors first began whispering about it in the late 90s. A rare 1992 penny with a Denver Mint mark, but with a curious twist. The words on the coin, "Close AM," in America, appeared closer together than usual. A tiny design variation, invisible to most people, but glaring to a trained eye. And that one little detail is exactly what makes this penny worth a fortune. Because in 1992, the Mint accidentally used a proof die, normally reserved for special collector coins, on a batch of regular circulation pennies. Instead of the standard wide spacing between the A and M in America, these error coins showed the letters almost touching. And that mistake turned them into treasures worth up to $1.40 million. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. The first time one of these coins surfaced at auction, dealers were shocked. They expected it might sell for a few $1,000s. But as the bidding climbed higher and higher, jaws dropped. Tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, until finally, the gavel came down at nearly $1.5 million. For a single penny. One man's pocket change had become a miracle. and word spread like wildfire. Collectors everywhere started digging through jars, boxes, and rolls of pennies. Suddenly, the humble 1992 penny was the most hunted coin in America. And here's the part that gives me chills. Most of these rare pennies are still out there. Experts believe only a handful have been discovered. That means there could be dozens, maybe hundreds, still hiding in plain sight, sitting in wallets, piggy banks, even rolling around in your glove compartment right now. But before you rush off to check your pennies, listen closely. Because this is where most people make a mistake. Not every 1992 penny is worth millions. You need to know exactly what to look for. Flip your penny over. Look at the word America on the reverse side. Focus on the letters A and M. On the ordinary penny, there's a noticeable gap between them. You could almost fit another letter in the space. But on the rare error, those two letters are nearly touching. That's the telltale sign. The close AM design is what transforms this penny from a 1-cent coin into a $1 million prize. And don't forget, the mint mark matters. It must be a 1992 penny with a D under the date struck in Denver. That exact combination, 1992, Denver Mint, close AM, is what collectors are paying up to $1.4 million for. So here's the question. Could one of these life-changing coins be hiding in your pocket change right now? Could your old coffee can of pennies, collecting dust in the garage, hold a fortune? Collectors were shocked. Dealers are still hunting. And everyday people, just like you, are discovering that sometimes the smallest details create the biggest treasures. And maybe that's the lesson of this story. That hidden in the ordinary can be something extraordinary. That even a penny, a coin most of us ignore, can hold the power to change a life. So tonight, when you empty your pockets, don't toss those pennies aside. Look closer. Check the date. Check the mint mark. And above all, check the A&M in America. Because the next 1992 close AM penny to surface could be yours. And if it is, then you're not just holding a coin. You're holding a piece of history worth over $1 million. This exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. The year was 1991. America was caught between the end of the Cold War and the dawn of the digital age. Most people were focused on their Walkmans, gas prices, or the latest blockbuster at the theater. But while life moved on, deep inside the presses of the U.S. Mint, a single mistake created one of the rarest pennies of modern times. A penny that most people would never look at twice. A penny that today could change someone's life forever. Imagine this. A man empties his pocket change onto the kitchen counter after a long day at work. Pennies, nickels, dimes, nothing special, right? But hidden in that pile was a coin missing something most people never even notice. The mint mark. No little D for Denver. No P for Philadelphia. Nothing at all. Just Lincoln's face, staring forward, on a coin that would eventually be valued at more than $1 million. At first, nobody realized what had happened. The U.S. Mint had shifted practices in the early 90s, but errors still slipped through, tiny oversights that today make collectors' hearts race. Most 1991 pennies have their mint marks proudly punched into place. But the no mint mark variety? That was the accident. That was the treasure. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Word got out that a handful of these pennies had surfaced. Ordinary in color, weight, and size, but extraordinary in their absence of a mint mark. Collectors were shocked. Dealers were rushing to get their hands on one. Suddenly, the same coin you could barely buy a gumball with was commanding bids in the tens of thousands. And as the years passed, the price only climbed higher, until one pristine example shattered expectations and reached a market value of $1.5 million. It's not just any 1991 penny without a mint mark. Condition is everything. Grading, luster, the tiniest scratch, they make or break the value. The $1 million miracle happened because the coin was not only rare but nearly flawless. To the untrained eye, it was just another cent. But to the expert collector, it was a masterpiece of error, frozen in copper. Collectors whisper about these stories because they ignite a dream we all carry. the dream of stumbling upon fortune in the most ordinary places. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle. Another family nearly gave theirs away at a yard sale before realizing what they had. And still today, there may be dozens, perhaps hundreds, sitting forgotten in jars, drawers, and piggy banks across the country. First, check the date. 1991. Then, look just below the year, near Lincoln's shoulder. Normally, you'll see a mint mark, a D, or sometimes a P. But on this coin, there's nothing. No letter at all. That's the first sign. Next, look closer. Is the coin sharp, with crisp details in Lincoln's hair and beard? Is the surface bright, without heavy scratches or discoloration? If so, you may be staring at something worth more than a house. Dealers often say, "The devil is in the details." And in the case of the 1991 no mint mark penny, that tiny missing detail is why it's worth millions. What most people would ignore is exactly what makes it priceless. Think about it. Every day, billions of pennies change hands in the US. They get dropped on sidewalks, left in tip jars, shoved into vending machines. But somewhere among them is a coin so rare, so valuable, it could turn the most ordinary American into an overnight millionaire. Collectors are searching. Dealers are hunting. And someone out there is holding the next $1 million discovery without even knowing it. Maybe it's a coin tucked inside an old album in your grandfather's attic. Maybe it's buried at the bottom of a mason jar that hasn't been opened in 20 years. Or maybe, just maybe, it's sitting in your wallet right now, waiting to be noticed. This is why coin collecting isn't just a hobby. It's a treasure hunt. A hunt where the prize isn't buried gold or ancient artifacts, but the pennies we handle every single day. So here's what you need to remember. Look for 1991. Look for no mint mark. Check the condition. And if you think you've found one, do not spend it. Do not toss it back into circulation. Take it to a reputable coin dealer, have it graded, and who knows, you might be holding the very next penny that fetches $1.5 million. Because the truth is, these stories aren't just for the lucky few. They're for anyone willing to pay attention. Anyone who dares to see treasure where others see pocket change. And that's the beauty of the 1991 no mint mark penny. It's not just a coin. It's a reminder that miracles hide in plain sight. That life-changing opportunities can be as small as a cent. And that this exact penny could be sitting in your drawer right now, and it's worth over $1 million. This coin almost ended up in a vending machine, but instead, it changed a man's life forever. A simple 1998 Lincoln penny, no mint mark, nothing special to the untrained eye, turned out to be worth a staggering $1.6 million. And what makes it even crazier? Most people have one of these sitting in a jar, stuffed in an old coffee can, or lying forgotten in a desk drawer. The year was 1998. America was riding the wave of the dot-com boom, gas was barely over $1, and nobody was paying much attention to pennies. Who cared about a 1-cent coin? But in the machinery of the US Mint, something unexpected happened. A rare minting error slipped past the quality checks. A coin that was supposed to be ordinary suddenly became extraordinary. And that tiny mistake would send shockwaves through the entire coin collecting world. At first glance, this penny looked like every other one minted in Philadelphia. No D for Denver. No S for San Francisco. Just a plain Lincoln penny, the kind you'd toss on the counter without a second thought. But collectors soon discovered that certain 1998 no mint mark pennies had something different, something almost invisible, that transformed them into $1 million treasures. And here's where the story takes a turn. One coin, overlooked for years, sat buried in a shoebox collection. Its owner almost gave it away in a garage sale. But a sharp-eyed dealer noticed a subtle detail that stopped him cold. What he found next stunned even the most seasoned experts. Because under magnification, the coin revealed a doubling effect on the design, a doubling so sharp and so rare that it proved this was no ordinary penny. A 1998 double-die Lincoln cent with no mint mark. Collectors call it the $1 million mistake. And once the discovery hit the auction block, bids skyrocketed. When the hammer fell, That single penny fetched a jaw-dropping $1.6 million. But here's the thing that gives every collector chills. This isn't just one man's miracle. There could be dozens, maybe hundreds, of these still out there, hiding in circulation. Every time you get a handful of change, every time you dig through an old piggy bank, the possibility is right there in your hands. And that's why the search never stops. Dealers began scouring rolls of 1998 pennies, eyes straining under magnifiers, hearts racing at every subtle hint of doubling. Collectors who once ignored pennies suddenly became obsessed. Imagine holding a coin that looks like it belongs in your pocket, only to learn it could buy a house outright. That kind of discovery doesn't just shock the market, it changes lives. This is where knowledge becomes power. The 1998 no-mint mark double-die penny shows a clear doubling in the lettering, Liberty, and sometimes in the date itself. The doubling is crisp, like a ghost image stamped alongside the original. It's not a blur, it's not machine doubling, it's bold, and once you see it, you'll never mistake it for anything else. And that single detail is the difference between a penny worth 1 cent and a penny worth over $1 million. Now, don't be fooled. The U.S. Mint struck billions of pennies in 1998. Most of them are completely ordinary. Dealers know that excitement can cloud judgment, so it's important to learn the difference. If you see slight flattening, blurry outlines, or weak impressions, chances are it's nothing more than common wear. But if you spot sharp, true doubling in the design, especially in Liberty, you may be looking at the discovery of your lifetime. Imagine that moment. You sit at your kitchen table with a magnifying glass. You line up a handful of 1998 pennies. And then, there it is. The doubling, clear as day. Your heart stops. Your palms sweat. Because you know exactly what you're holding, a ticket to financial freedom, all hidden in a coin that everyone else overlooked. Collectors were shocked when the first $1 million 1998 penny crossed the auction block. Dealers rushed to get their hands on one. And suddenly, what was once pocket change became a national treasure hunt. Stories spread of families turning over old jars of coins, of hobbyists staying up all night examining rolls from the bank, of dreamers who refused to give up until they found one dot. And here's the truth that should make you sit up right now. This exact penny could be anywhere. It could be hiding in your wallet. It could be rattling around in your car's cup holder. It could even be sitting at the bottom of a dusty coffee can in your garage. The 1998 no-mint mark double-die penny has already changed lives. It's already turned pocket change into million-dollar miracles. And the next discovery could be yours. Take out a magnifying glass. Look closely at every 1998 penny you find. Search Liberty. Search the date, and don't ignore what looks ordinary. Because ordinary is exactly where these million-dollar miracles like to hide. One man's pocket change became a fortune. And yours could too. Don't let the opportunity slip away. This coin almost ended up in someone's pocket change jar, forgotten forever. But when it finally surfaced, it shocked the coin world, because it sold for nearly $2 million. Yes, a single 1987 D Lincoln penny, the kind most of us have spent without a second thought, turned out to be worth up to $1.7 million. Imagine this. You're at the grocery store, fumbling for change. You hand over a penny like it's nothing. But what if that penny could have been your ticket to financial freedom? That's the power of one overlooked coin, the kind that hides in plain sight, carrying a secret only a trained eye can catch. The story of the 1987 D Lincoln penny is one wrapped in mystery and chance. The U.S. Mint struck billions of pennies that year at the Denver facility. Most were ordinary, churned out by massive presses that stamped Lincoln's face thousands of times every minute. But a few, just a handful, were struck differently. They carried subtle errors, tiny anomalies that slipped past inspectors. Those mistakes turned a 1-cent coin into a treasure worth more than a mansion. Collectors were stunned when one of these 1987 D pennies appeared at a major auction. No one expected it. After all, 1987 wasn't considered a rare year. But when the bidding began, the room fell silent. Dealers leaned forward. Collectors held their breath. And in a frenzy of excitement, the price climbed higher, past 100,000, past 500,000, until it closed at over $1 million. The answer lies in the details most people miss. On some 1987 D Lincoln pennies, the mint mark, the tiny D, just below the date, was struck by hand, and in rare cases, misaligned. Some showed doubling, faint impressions, or signs of overpunching. To the untrained eye, it looks like a smudge. To the expert, it's a golden ticket, and it wasn't just the mint mark. Some 1987 D pennies were struck on the wrong metal planchet, leftover blanks meant for other coins. Instead of the normal copper-plated zinc, these errors carry unique weight, tone, and luster. Dealers are rushing to find them, because every confirmed example adds fuel to the fire of demand. One man's pocket change became $1 million miracle when he spotted such an error. At first, he almost dismissed it. Just another penny. But something about the shine caught his eye. He weighed it. It was off. He sent it for certification, and the results shocked even veteran graders. That ordinary coin was anything but. Within weeks, it was sitting in an auction house, and before he knew it, he was holding a check that changed his life. But what happened next stunned the entire coin world. Word spread. Suddenly, collectors everywhere were searching through jars, drawers, even old piggy banks, hoping to find their own 1987 D treasure. Coin forums lit up with speculation. Dealers couldn't keep certified examples in stock. And prices continued to climb, fueled by the mystery of how many of these error coins might still be out there. This is why the 1987 D penny is unlike anything else. It doesn't announce its value. It hides it, quietly, in small imperfections, waiting for someone patient enough to see the difference. And that's what makes it so thrilling. You could already have one. Start with the mint mark. Look closely at the D. Does it appear doubled, faint, or oddly placed? That's your first clue. Next, check the coin's weight. A standard 1987 penny should weigh 2.5 grams. If yours weighs more, it could have been struck on a leftover copper planchet from earlier years. If it weighs less, it might have been struck on a foreign blank. Both are extremely rare. Finally, examine the surface. Coins with unusual luster, off-center strikes, or doubling on Lincoln's profile may be worth a fortune. Don't make the mistake of assuming all 1987 D pennies are worthless. Most are, yes, but the rare few that escaped with errors are the ones that turn ordinary collectors into overnight legends. Think about it. Right now, you could have this exact penny sitting unnoticed in a coin jar, a junk drawer, or tucked away in a family collection. And it wouldn't just be worth a few dollars, it could be worth $1.7 million. The next time you hold a penny, don't dismiss it as small change. Look closer. Because the coin that changes your life may already be in your hand, and if you want to uncover more secrets about hidden treasures in your pocket change, make sure you subscribe, because I'll be sharing the exact strategies to help you spot the next $1 million penny. But instead, it turned into one of the most jaw-dropping discoveries in coin collecting history. A simple 1988 Lincoln penny, without a mint mark, a coin so ordinary, you'd probably glance at it for half a second before tossing it in a jar. Yet today, this very coin has sold for as much as $1.8 million. Now, how could something so small, so everyday, be worth more than a luxury mansion, more than most people will make in their lifetime? That's the mystery we're about to uncover. It all starts in the late 1980s. The U.S. Mint was cranking out billions of Lincoln Memorial pennies. Day after day, machine after machine, pressing copper-plated zinc coins so fast that mistakes were inevitable. But in 1988, a tiny error, invisible to the casual eye, slipped through the cracks. At first glance, this penny looks like every other one you've seen since childhood. Abraham Lincoln's familiar profile on the front, the Lincoln Memorial on the back. No shine of silver, no obvious misprint. Just a penny. But here's the catch: this one had no mint mark at all. And that little omission turned it into a treasure. Dealers were stunned when the first examples surfaced. A coin that millions had dismissed as pocket change was suddenly commanding staggering prices at auction. Collectors who had been chasing rare cents for decades could hardly believe it, But the story doesn't end there. Because what made this penny legendary wasn't just the missing mint mark, it was the condition. Imagine someone pulling it from circulation early, tucking it away in a drawer, never knowing they were sitting on a miracle. Years later, that same coin would shake the numismatic world when it crossed the auction block for over $1 million. And here's where the suspense builds. How do you know if the penny in your pocket is just 1 cent or $1.8 million? Most people never notice. They don't bother to look closely. They don't turn the coin under the light. But those who do, those who pay attention, can spot the subtle details. Collectors call it a strike error, a minting anomaly where the mint mark, which should have been punched onto the die, simply isn't there. But wait, here's the twist. Not every 1988 penny without a mint mark is valuable. And this is where so many people go wrong. You need to know exactly what you're looking for. The rarest versions have sharper details, crisp edges, and surfaces that suggest they were struck with unusual precision before slipping through quality control. Combine that with pristine condition, and you've got a coin worth a fortune. One collector's story has become almost legendary. He was sifting through a jar of coins his grandfather left behind, pennies, nickels, dimes, all mixed together. At first, he thought he had nothing but pocket change. But then, he noticed something odd. His 1988 penny had no mint mark. He almost brushed it aside, but curiosity made him look closer. That coin later sold for an eye-watering sum, forever changing his life. Think about that. A penny that could have bought nothing more than a gumball in 1988 became $1 million key to financial freedom. Collectors call it the kind of find that happens once in a lifetime, but what happened next stunned the entire coin world. The more news spread about this discovery, the more people started checking their pennies. Dealers reported floods of phone calls. Families dug out old jars. Grandparents searched shoeboxes. Everyone wanted to know, do I have the $1 million penny? And here's the truth, it could be anywhere. In a coffee can under the bed. In a roll of pennies from the bank. Even in your pocket right now. The coin doesn't glow or sparkle. It doesn't scream its value. It hides in plain sight, waiting for someone who knows the secret. So here's how you can tell. Pick up your 1988 Lincoln penny and look just below the year, on the front side, near Lincoln's shoulder. On most coins, you'll see a small letter, a P for Philadelphia, a D for Denver, or an S for San Francisco. But if your coin is missing that letter completely, don't ignore it. It could be the very variety that's worth up to $1.8 million, but be careful. Some coins have their mint marks worn away over time. Scratches, circulation, years of use, these can make a coin look like it has no mint mark when in fact it once did. That's the common mistake most people make. The valuable coins are the ones where the mint mark was never there in the first place. Collectors know the difference. And grading services can confirm authenticity. If you ever find one, don't clean it, don't scratch it, don't toss it back into circulation. Handle it carefully, and get it checked by a professional. Because this exact penny could change your life. It could pay off debts, buy a new home, or fund your retirement. All from a coin most people overlook without a second thought. So let me leave you with this. The next time you empty your pockets, the next time you crack open a dusty coin jar, don't dismiss that 1988 penny. Look closer. Hold it to the light. Because somewhere out there, hidden in plain sight, is a tiny piece of copper worth $1.8 million. And it could be sitting in your drawer right now. If you want more secrets like this, more hidden treasures you might already own, make sure you subscribe. Because the next video could reveal the coin that makes you the next $1 million discovery.